So welcome all. This is Gateway 1, and this is for November 5th, no, November 6th to the 11th of November 2025. I'm going to go over several different I Ching interpretations, starting with the Rave I Ching, and then touching on Chaitan's perspective of this gate, as well as Richard Rudd's Gene Key version, and adding in my own couple cents as we go through it, as well as some musings relative to the frequencies this particular gateway portal expresses. And we're in the heart of it. We're in the heart of the underworld. These are the scorpionic gates. And as we go through them, we arrive in this is tomorrow, actually, tomorrow, right after the full moon in Taurus, we'll arrive at the sun in gate 1, line 1. And as you can see in this particular graph, this activates the 8-1 channel, which is the channel of, I'm forgetting again the name of that channel, but it is the channel of having a voice and sometimes the ability to sing. And it's the authority of the self-projected projector, which means that it is a subtle knowingness, and that is what the authority is. On this particular day, we have profile 1-4, the investigating opportunist, with the single definition, the only channel activated, and the right angle cross of the Sphinx, version 4. And so what we have here is a continuation of this activation of the G center manifestation to the throat. And the G center always seeks community. So the particular theme for the next couple days will be about hearing your voice, your inner voice, amidst community. And it being a very individuated channel, it's very much about your own creative voice, your own creative expression, and also sitting with the pause or the polarity of that, which is to sit in a state of numbness where nothing is happening and not denying it or reacting to it or or completely repressing it, but being open to sitting in that open space, that black hole space of nothingness, and waiting for whenever creative impulse and the melancholic um, swing arrives, so that creativity can burst into consciousness. And so this is what it is, as expressed by Ra in the Rave I Ching. This I Ching hexagram, gate 1, is called the creative. And it is the first I Ching hexagram. And so in the particular hexagram itself, it's all 6 lines are male lines. They're all perfect lines without a break. And this is the primary code for all of the creative source of what life is, and also the spontaneous release of direction from the direct expression of the self. And it's a very powerful impulse towards manifestation and an individuated impulse. So it's the unique voice of man. And so what we have here is a very unique and expressive mutation that comes into being through the individual. And this is a polarity to the second hexagram, which is all female lines, all open lines. And together it creates a kind of yin and yang, and it creates a polarity. For the hexagram 2 is the receptive. And the line description for this particular gate is creation as primal force. We have receptivity as a primal base and creation as a primal force. So it's the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. And Ra goes on to say that potential is a key word because so many things are going to be necessary. To manifest inspiration without limitation is a very important term to grasp. Mutation knows no boundary. Mutation follows on structure and order. Mutation is something that simply jumps. Remember, everything that has to do with the one and the two is all rooted in the center. Tantric movement, and that we have this pulsing of the individual process, the mutative pulse, the on and the off. And this on and off that Ross speaks of, this is the polarity of what it is to be human. We have these polaric states, and we desperately attempt to freeze ourselves into one state or the other in an act of denial. And that is how we get lost from the movement of life, which is always a process of waves forming and dissolving, which is always a process of polarity, a polarity that we can never control. If we're caught up in a melancholic state, it's not up to us when exactly creativity begins to process through us and create through us. And this is the allowance of what it is of beingness, to be with wherever you're at, whether it's an empty space or a filling full space. A part of life is accepting and allowing that process, as it is always a moving and shifting process. It's not a static process. And this is important. This gets really important when Richard Rudd breaks down entropy versus syntropy in his description of this gate. Now, another thing Ron noted is the most important thing for anybody who carries the first gate is the recognition that the first gate does not have to be the best. To be best is collective. When there is nothing new, everybody is competing to see who can be best. But when there is something new, no best exists. It is just something new. Individuality always brings what is new, and as such, it cannot lead, it cannot project, it cannot be the witness, and it cannot reflect. It can only live out that nature. That is why, with energy, the potential to manifest inspiration is unlimited, because the mutation transcends or can transcend limitation. First line is creation is independent of will. Now, this is really important here because both the reception and the creation are independent of will. And what that means is I'm pretty much going to repeat for a little while in different metaphors and adjectives and different layers of what this movement is to be human. We get too caught up in polarities, in, it's fate. No, it's free will. It's it's a frozen state we live in. No, it's an active state. It's entropy. No, it's syntropy. It's all about life. No, it's all about death. We get lost in attaching to one specific polarity or not. And some of us are desperate to hold on to some kind of illusion that we're holding on to just one state. But to hold on to one state is a process of disintegration. I don't want to say life or death, both are a part and parcel of the same kind of process. But there is an expression of denial of life when one experiences states of withdrawal and denial of what is. And what is that flow of life. The flow of life is an experience of the contrast between inertness and numbness and stillness and staticness, and the other side, which is movement and swiftness and flow. And so we're all looking to feel or to control some sort of balance between order and chaos, between boredom and excitement, between great heights that always come with corresponding depths. The horror of life is the anticipation that when things get too high, we know that a low will follow. As a species, we're too readily accepting of a desperation for extremes when it seems that the wise reach that we all arrive at sooner or later is the understanding and realization that capital B balance is the key to life, both allowing for the connection with others and the time to oneself, both allowing for the experiences of the ecstasy of creativity and music and pleasurable food and other experiences, and yet also allowing for the time of purifying and cleaning and organizing and ordering one's world so that one's environment can be clear of negative cycles. We forget too easily that when we associate moodiness or negativity or complaints with doing the dishes or cleaning the house or making one's bed or washing or brushing one's teeth, these are all the processes of gradual respect and process of life. We need a balance of the two. We need the balance of order and chaos. Too much order in life becomes boring. Too much chaos, or me put it another way, too much excitement creates too much chaos in one's life. So perhaps we all really seek to create a balance between the externalization as well as the internalization, the void as much as filling life with happiness and connection and light. Both experiences are necessary. Both the light and the shadow are necessary. We can enjoy the delight of the sun and its light every day that we have sunlight, just as much as we can appreciate the darkness of the night, where we can see deeper and more subtle attributes of our spirit, our energetics. And of course, the day emphasizes the visible third density forms, but night is no less real. In fact, some argue night is more real because of day being a seeming illusory fabrication, which we call our reality or this realm. But really, creativity comes from the void. It comes from the empty space. It comes from the blackness. It comes from the authentication of the destruction of anything that doesn't represent truth in its state of possibility. And only with the essence of absence and voidness is there the possibility of creativity. And this meditation is about balance. This gate 1 is about the polarity with gate 2. And these gates in the I Ching, this sequence of our DNA, these all operate on polarities. And this is what it is. This is what this gate describes. One has Scorpio rulership, and Scorpio represents the intensity of the depth of the exploration of the underworld, of the shadow self. And there's great depth to the human shadow, to understanding our deep and darkest uncomfortability and uncomfortable feelings and memories. Those memories which make us shudder or cringe or squirm, those things that we've done that all we associate with it is shame. And we can barely handle remembering such moments for more than a moment. But the void, what it is to be human and experience the light and the dark, is to accept those experiences and to indulge in them so as to let them go, so as to take back your energy from them and to give back any leftover energy of others back to them. And so is the process of death and life, or the death of life, of what it is to live and live with your own energy in you at this moment, culminating in your experience and not left behind on a street corner or in a childhood closet, but rather brought back to the present, remembering yourself back together. And that's what this gate is about, essentially. It's about bringing balance back to your life, having fun with the eternal dance of what it is to appreciate both the dark and light sides of life. This gate calls forth a question to accept, to deeply accept your own nature and your own creative flow without controlling it, because none of us can control the creative flow, which is why artists suffer from opening the gates too wide and not being able to shut it. And such leads to drug addiction to keep the gate open, which leads to all sorts of other problems without good boundaries. And so the best is to look for a balance, it seems, and not to get stuck, not to freeze into depressive states or to overactivate into manic and frenetic states, overriding our nervous system and immune system into illness. Rather, what we want to arrive at is a recognition of the beauty of what it is to experience melancholy, the beauty of what it is to recognize that no other human can help us, but perhaps music can help us find that center again. And so it's a dance between darkness and light, shadow, and what can be presented to the world. And really, there's a deeper level to this that's all about perspective, the vantage point from which we perceive. Because relative to where we perceive reality, all life is beauty. No matter how dark and disturbing something might be, there's going to be a beauty in it. Because all experience is permissible. All is correct because, after all, this is a realm of experience. And we don't grow without adversity. It's only through adversity that we grow and learn. Otherwise, we would just be floating sponges in an ocean, never growing or mutating, just in a state of beingness, which is not a relative insult. It's also an interesting state of being. But we're concerned here with what is unique. We're concerned here what is not necessarily explicable. Beauty is something that human beings experience as a form of death in life, how many times do humans love to say that this image or this experience took my breath away? What are we essentially saying? This experience brought us death, a death in life. Beauty is a form of death. It's a form of destruction. Hence Venus ruling executions, and many cultures utilizing executions on Friday, the day of Venus. And so our relationship to beauty is relative. There's an ideal, of course. Perfect symmetry represents in all shapes. Well, in human form, human symmetry is something very specific. And symmetry in all forms represents the ideal beauty. And at the same time, relative to that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There are many forms of beauty because the impact is different relative to one's perception, relative to the impact that an image or another person or an animal or a being has on one's another's senses. I remember for a long time I described what I felt as beauty as being the ability for essence to occupy the vehicle. In other words, the more something is present in its being, the more attractive it is. That would be my definition of beauty. Just thought I would share. So these next 5 days, this next week, with the sun going through the creative force of Gateway 1, experiment and allow the waves of inertness and flow. Allow yourself to experience both of them. You may be able to hear the edge in my voice. I'm not in a good mood at all. I'm very impatient. I did not want to deal with any humans this day. But it's not a bad thing. It's just space needed for myself. And I'm enjoying the utilization of this moment to express a very powerful gate that celebrates this contrast that I've celebrated most of my life, in acknowledging both the dark side and the light side of life, which is a fundamental core of my philosophy and meditative awareness for a long time. And so again, the point I'm making here is that from a certain vantage point, perhaps from the highest vantage point of perceiving life and what it is, perhaps there's no higher vantage point than recognizing that everything has its beauty, and beauty in itself is something that we have trouble describing the definition of what that really means. I gave several definitions, all of them valid. Hope that resonated with some of you. Take what, of course, resonates with you and feel free to throw away anything that doesn't. Hope you enjoyed my words here. And of course, I shared some of the work of Ra and Chetan, as well as Richard. And enjoy this week. Enjoy both states, both the states of absence, the black hole state of absence and void, as well as the fulfilled state of light and creative input and birthing into the world. See you guys in a week on the next Gateway. And Friday, I'll release a video that me and Gary are doing. And then after that, I'll release my November dream wave about the whole month. And then I'll do a focus video on the really, really interesting, shocking, dark new moon on November 19th. and then I may finally start reading. I was so upset for these last couple of months. I wanted to read The Castle by Kafka, but I misplaced my copy and I looked everywhere and I still can't find it. So I'm probably gonna just download or buy another copy and start reading it. And, Kafka's books are just a whole, just shocking, like strange, dream-like logic. And I think there's several versions being read, but I'm gonna read it in a particular way and focus. And reading such a book is really illuminating because it's easy to get lost when reading such tautological dream logic that Kafka was able to do, kind of keep us in these weird cycles, but consciously in his writing. It was just powerful. Anyways, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.